Hello and welcome to episode 5 of Hyperlegible. Today, I'm talking to our first pseudonymous author who goes by the name of Parakeet. We're doing this one in a bit of a different style. We're going animated to protect her anonymity. And during the piece, I think you'll see why she wants to be free to be able to kind of write whatever comes to her mind. This piece that we talk about, Skittle Factory, Dementia, Monkey Titty, Monetization, is one of the most interesting pieces that I've read in a while. It took the internet by storm. It was shared by a bunch of people that I really respect, who all kind of somehow found this piece, maybe from each other, but it seemed like it came from different circles. But while I was coming to a wedding in Dallas on the airplane, this thing took off. I got off, I saw it. It was all over my Twitter feed, and it was all over the Substack Notes app. And for good reason. I think Parakeet in this piece addresses a bunch of themes that we all think about. Can you change your personality? Things like kind of dementia and Alzheimer's, which I've written about. My grandmother had Alzheimer's, is my biggest fear in life, is getting Alzheimer's, but writes about it in this really fun, interesting way, using the metaphor of a Skittle Factory. It's a really wide-ranging, excellent conversation. It's the longest one that we've done, and it was really, really fun. So I'm not going to spoil that for you, but I will tell you about our sponsor, Readwise. Hyperlegible is sponsored by my friends at Readwise, who build software that helps you get the most out of your reading. I've been using Readwise for years to support my newsletter, my general curiosity, and now this podcast. I think you might be interested in their reader app. It's like a version of Pocket, but next generation, better, fresher, with best-in-class highlighting, annotating, AI, and more. It also supports web articles, YouTube with highlightable transcripts, newsletters, PDFs, EPUBs, and even X-Threads. If you want to give it a try, we have a special link. Go to readwise.io/hyperlegible. That's readwise.io/hyperlegible, where you can start a free trial and get all of the articles discussed here on Hyperlegible automatically added to your account. You'll find articles from Tina He, Utsav Memoria, Julian Lair, Alex Stanko, and now you'll find this essay titled Skittle Factory, Dementia, Monkey Titty, Monetization by Parakeet. Parakeet, thanks for coming on. Can you please summarize Skittle Factory, Dementia, Monkey Titty, Monetization in about 2 minutes?
Oof, I love making you say that title. I have to say my titles are very good. I'm proud of them.
They are.
Summarizing Skittle Factory Monkey Titties in 2 minutes, that's kind of hard. Because if I could write a 2-minute version, I would have written a 2-minute version. So I'm actually curious to know, which parts of it did you like? What resonated? What was your takeaway?
Ooh, this is the first time this has happened on the show. A combination of the sentences, the vibe, and I know vibe is super overused. The gifs, I think I told you beforehand, I really like just how all of that fit together. There was the one sentence where you talked about, you were kind of doing the nostalgia thing and talking about back when racism was okay or something, just little things that you threw in there I thought were so funny. But then there are memorable things. You could say, focus on one thing. And there's a lot of productivity people out there who are focus on that one thing. But when you call it your dementia personality, that's just a totally different way to view the thing. It seems like it's almost outside of your control, but you do then talk about kind of controlling it. Obviously, you can talk about controlling your inputs in your environment, but calling it the Skittle Factory and breaking down kind of which pieces contribute work, even little things what was it, 43 shells around the Skittles going down to 20 and then 5.
Accurate. I looked up how Skittles are actually made for this because I just wanted it to be accurate.
I was actually wondering if that was actually how it works. Did you research how a Skittle Factory operates for this piece?
I did. So I tend to get obsessed with things and go down rabbit holes. And I also like when the examples you use are accurate and from real life. So I hate when I watch a movie and it's the little details are incorrect, but it's still kind of in this nonfiction format. So then it just gives you this slightly incorrect understanding of the world. And it's those little things can kind of sleep in the background of everything that you know. And I just feel if if people paid more attention to that. It's like you could learn so many little things pretty easily because it's like you're just absorbing stuff all the time. Yeah, so I did look up Skittle Factories and like how they make Skittles. I'm really glad that you liked this because I wasn't sure if like anyone was gonna read it or anyone was gonna like it at all, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like it seems like the parts that people really liked the most were the parts that I was like definitely about to delete because I thought they just felt a little too like explainy, a little too preachy or something. But I also think that the dementia personality thing is real. So I spent a lot of time working at a dementia and advanced Alzheimer's facility. So I don't have a medical background, but I was kind of like a community fun person. And I'm like a very silly person. So I think my job was basically vibes to come in and like talk to people, have fun, kind of wake them up. And it was one of the most fascinating things I've ever experienced in my life because so you have these people who their brain is like totally fried. So like varying degrees of dementia and Alzheimer's, from like light to completely debilitating, like in a full wheelchair, unable to speak, unable to eat themselves, like go to the bathroom themselves. And I got to know some of them, and I would do things like I would sing songs with them, or sometimes I would have these like dance nights where we would just all kind of put on music and dance together. And it was like, I noticed that I could kind of open up this like hidden part of themselves that was atrophying. And it was kind of like these moments of joy that I think I was able to create woke them up and reconnected them to this part of their brain that was like totally lost. So that kind of like just started me on this reflective journey of like what does it mean when, like, how malleable is your brain? Like when you think that something's lost, is it really lost? Because like I've seen situations where like someone who never talks will just suddenly start talking, and it's not because of medicine, it's not because of anything special, it's literally just because someone is kind of bringing them joy back in their life. So that's kind of like where I started getting into this and like my background on that. But from that, I started to get to know the people who I worked with, and through their own stories and also through the stories of their caretakers when they would come in and visit, I slowly started to realize that like these people were kind of always this way. So like their dementia personality was almost always this one kind of fixation or this one like mode of thought that they were compulsively kind of falling into, to the point where it was like totally delusional sometimes. But when I heard those stories from their caretakers and from them, it was like, oh, you've always kind of been this way. Like, this is very you still. And when I was writing the piece, I was thinking like those core loops are something that I think is always there. And it's something that drives so much of like your reality, your outcomes in life, who you are, how you see the world. And it's kind of like, what if you were more conscious of those core loops? And it's not really like a novel concept, but I think explaining it in terms of dementia takes it from being like this abstract kind of like feel-good platitude to something that's like very real. Like, this is what happens when your brain kind of like shits the bed.
Do you think there's, or in your experience in working with these people, is it a correlation between like the thing that they cared most about before dementia becomes the core loop, or does the brain just like kind of go off kilter and like pick something random?
No, it's not random at all. It's your dementia personality is absolutely not random. It's basically just that core loop distilled down to its like very essence. So it's usually a result of the things that people are obsessed with. But it's like the things we do become us. We become the things that we do. So it's kind of like they're like connected.
Yeah, you talked in the piece at one point, and we'll jump all over the place here, but it seems like the right place to do this one. You talked in the piece about this idea of like kind of getting ahead of dementia and being like, this comes for a lot of us, get ahead of it and just kind of like pick your dementia personality and go in. And I was wondering like how much agency people have over that, like how much you can actually pick the thing that you loop on versus just like it is a thing that you end up getting obsessed with and there's nothing you can do about it, and eventually your brain will just narrow down to that point. But in kind of pre-dementia life, you're stuck with whatever your brain loops on.
I was thinking about that today. I was in the sauna today and I was taking some notes. And so like in the essay, I have this Skittle Factory metaphor where it's basically describing your personality, the way you see the world, as like you think of it like a factory. And your reality, your outputs in life are your Skittles. And it's like this machine that you can tinker with. But it's very hard to, because like when you get to that core loop, which in the essay is like the engine that's running the whole Skittle Factory, nobody wants to touch that core loop. It's kind of like where we've almost like evolved to not touch it, to protect it at all costs, to like maintain narrative continuity no matter what. And like in people with dementia, you see that in the absolute extreme where it's like their need to protect that loop and maintain that narrative continuity overrides everything around them, to the point where they're kind of in outer space and they're walking in and they're telling you about the war and they think they're still in the war, and they think it's like 1973, and it's like, no, you need to put pants on, it's time for a nap. Editing this core loop is really hard. So like one of the things I said in the essay was that it's hard to do that because no one wants to come up with a totally new fuel source. But I think that sometimes life carpet bombs your Skittle Factory and it forces you to like totally rebuild everything from scratch. And I'm not sure if you can do that without the kind of like traumatic experience of like life forcing you to start from square one and be a full beginner and reconsider like everything that you know about your life.
Yeah, I mean, the other way that you described it, like that's the one extreme version of it. Then there's getting dementia. The other way you described it was like you're, I think, voting kind of for a particular core loop. Every time you revisit the loop, you're voting for that one. And I like that way of thinking about it too. You do kind of dismiss meditation, I think, at one point is like something that everybody tries to fix this, but like how do you mindfully, I guess, like choose what to revisit if you're not kind of thinking of your thoughts? Like what's the best way to do it without something horrible happening? Or is there like just to like slowly reset the grooves?
To slowly reset the grooves. Well, I think it comes, so like it is subconscious. It is kind of like it's like where your mind wanders when your attention isn't really focused on one thing. So there's like something to it being like a natural instinct, but I think it comes back to like making sure that your environment really does reflect the things that you want to do and like the situations that you really flourish in, so that the places that your mind naturally wanders are kind of like in line with the best version of yourself. So, and that kind of goes back to the thing we said at the beginning, where it's like who you are is what you do is what you become. So I think it's like being mindful of that is how you take those little steps.
That makes sense to me. And it, just again, like the way that you wrote it, where it's like, yeah, who's going to actually kind of like retool the factory mid-production? Like you can't shut it down. It's just like it's another one of those things I think that you wrote that just makes it clear. Well, like otherwise you're like, yeah, I'll just do like the James Clear thing. I'll do like 1% a day and I'll just keep getting a little bit better. But if you like actually think about it as a factory, you're like, yeah, I'm not taking my factory offline.
I'm not taking my and I'm not figuring out a new fuel source. That's terrible. That's terrible. Like nobody wants to do that. So I was thinking about this earlier today. Like, I think that, I think there are these like Skittle Factory mass extinction events where it's like every now and then life really, really kicks your butt and it's like your whole factory is torn down and you're nothing but the core loop and you have to reconsider the core loop totally from scratch. You have to reconsider who you are totally from scratch. And it's like, that's like the worst thing ever. It's always terrible when you're going through that. But I kind of think that like there are these filters to becoming like a great person where like if you talk to any really interesting, really high, like really successful person, they didn't have life easy. Like nobody becomes an interesting person when life is on easy mode. And it's kind of like they've gone through all of those filters and all of those like kind of Skittle Factory mass extinction events. And in the process of like meeting those events every time and overcoming them, it's almost like they've learned how to rebuild the Skittle Factory. So it's like they're not afraid of losing the entire Skittle Factory because like after a couple times you kind of know like we'll figure something out. It's gonna suck for a while, but we'll rebuild it again. And I think that is like this. I think that's like the secret sauce to life, where it's like because like you get this kind of freedom and fearlessness where it's like I can get my ass kicked in any way. And I've shown time and time again that I can overcome those things. And there's like no reason to be afraid. There's no reason to like limit yourself or not be wildly ambitious or not take like huge risks.
Do you think those people know that if it happens to them again, they'll be able to handle it? Or are they also at that point better at just like shutting the factory down and resetting and deciding kind of what kind of Skittles they want to make?
So I think that like it's almost like Fermi's paradox, where like where like life has all of these filters, these filter moments, and if we can like get past them, then we become like a more sophisticated civilization, and then there should be other civilizations that we would be able to detect in some way. I think like those filter events are the same with people. And I think that like every I call them Skittle Factory extinction events. Every Skittle Factory extinction event, like by virtue of what it is, has to kick your ass completely. So I think every single one is as hard as the first one. But I think in the process, you become like practiced at rebuilding the factory. Like you know where you need to build a fallout shelter. You know when certain types of reflection are going to help you or when they're going to just spiral into crisis. Or like you know when you should be reflecting and when you should just like keep your head down and keep grinding. And I feel like knowing that you like kind of have those processes and that you can meet them and not control them, but like work with them. I just feel like that's like the most important skill you can have. And it's like when you're going through that, it feels like the worst thing ever. So it's hard to like even understand that that's a gift.
There's the meme, like, hard times make strong men make good times. That whole meme.
Oh yeah.
Do you think that it's less common for people to rebuild their Skittle factories now that we're in this like kind of good times period? Like, are we getting worse at dealing with this over time? Are there fewer and fewer Skittle Factory extinction events as life gets like kind of more materially easy? Or do you think like emotional, it's harder, and so we still have as many of these opportunities as our great grandparents might have?
I don't know. It's a good question because like to some extent, when you're not in an environment that's allowing for that or like encouraging that sort of like internal work, I think that it becomes scarier to do it. And I think like the longer you go without having a Skittle Factory mass extinction event, the more scary it gets because like you kind of forget. So I don't know. Like, have you ever experienced something like that?
Honestly, I guess I'm not that interested. I like have not had a mass extinction event. I have like little ones. I have little extinction events where like, like super minor. But even like a few weeks ago, I got to a point where I was like, I don't think I'm ever actually going to be able to like write. I think I'm just like done. Like not on purpose, not like for any reason. It was just like kind of creatively stuck. And then I just like, I fasted for a day, like all the stuff that you're saying you don't do. I've I was
Wait,
hungover. It
no,
was my
I
brother's
think
bachelor
fasting is
party.
good. I'm pro fasting.
What's that? Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
think fasting is good.
Yeah, so I like, did that. I like did an ice bath, and then
I did that today for the first time. It's insane.
it's really cold.
It's really cold. So I was in the sauna and then I did the ice bath and the longest I could go was 1 minute. But it really does like slap your nervous system.
Totally.
Yeah.
So it was like I'm saying, like it's not anything. I'm fortunate that there hasn't been a big one, or maybe unfortunate, but it was like there was one day where I was just like I hit like rock bottom. And I was like, I think I'm done, and then I just like tried a few different things to like restart it, and it worked. And I like now feel great and more productive and creative or whatever you're gonna say. But
What were the things you did to restart it?
So the situation was my younger brother's bachelor party, was hungover, but just like also like had this year I decided to give myself more room to like just no schedule. I'll write when I feel like it because I want to write longer, deeper pieces, and like all these things that like sound good and actually like really were not good for my writing at all. Like not having the deadline really kind of like
Having a
took me out of
deadline
it.
is so important.
It's so important. And so like it was just like a bunch of those little things, like nothing bad, but just like a bunch of those little things. And I was like, I think I'm done. And so I decided at some point during the day, I was like, I'm not gonna eat for the rest of the day. I have this like ice bath and sauna thing later that was just like some scheduled event. So I'll go do that. And I'm gonna change from just like general meditation to like ChatGPT actually told me to do this absorption meditation. And so I started doing that.
What's that?
Like, it's just you like literally sit there for 35 minutes and focus on the breath at the tip of your nose. And for some reason, instead of like mellowing me out, it actually does kind of like energize and has improved my focus a little bit. And
Yeah.
I'm sure some of that is placebo. So it wasn't anything extreme, but it was like those three things.
I don't know if that stuff is placebo. I don't.
No, maybe it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, there's like so I have jazz class today, and I was just like thinking about it when I woke up, and like my jazz teacher, she was like the protege of this like very famous jazz dancer named Luigi, who like created this method. It's called Luigi Jazz, and it's he's like one of the most famous dancers kind of all time, and his method, he created it because at the beginning of his dance career, he got in a car accident and it left the entire right side of his body paralyzed. So he taught himself not only how to move again, how to walk again, how to dance again, but then he became one of the best dancers of all time. So he has this warm-up method that he created that is based on what he learned when he was like rehabbing himself. And my dance teacher does this warm-up. And I noticed like after every class, it's like I'm a different person. It's like the light goes on and like I'm more empathetic, I'm more connected to myself, like I'm sharper, my intuition is like locked in, like questions that had been like eluding me are suddenly like the answers right there. And I feel like there's so much, I feel like there's a lot more we're not supposed to be sedentary.
I think that's totally right. What is the warm-up method?
Well, it's like a dance warm-up. So it's all dance moves, but it's dancing, but also really keeping your awareness in your body and also focusing a lot on like natural posture and improving natural posture. But there's this way that I mean, I've been dancing my whole life and I've never felt anything like this. It's like he figured out something to reconnect his brain to his body, and it's in this warm-up, and it like really does do that.
Did he get over the side of his body paralysis, or did he become the best dancer with just one side of his body?
Oh no, he got over it, but like he had to completely rewrite his brain. So like he had to basically like brute force the other parts of his brain to learn how to kind of handle these dance things. So it's like someone completely rewiring their brain to do this new thing. And like he was 21, which is still young, but it's like old enough that it's not like being 5, where like your plasticity is just through the roof. You can do anything. You can be anything. But like, I mean, it ties back to the essay because it's like you really can rewire your brain to kind of do anything. And like, so like for me personally, last year I found out that I was just out of nowhere. Like I went to get an MRI because I had a concussion, and the concussion was like, it wasn't really that bad. I was just being safe. And in the MRI, I found out that I was born with 2 centimeters missing from my cerebellum. And I
Oh,
just never noticed the symptoms whatsoever. And it turns out the cerebellum is like basically the ballerina part of your brain. Like everything with dance, everything with movement, with like spatial orientation is the cerebellum. So I think like my whole life I've kind of done like a version of what Luigi did. And so it's like, I know for me personally, it's like when someone says you can do anything you believe you can do, it sounds like bullshit, but it's like really true.
yeah. I'm coming to believe that more and more. So like my newsletter, like the way that this all started was I write about tech companies most of the time. And I wrote a piece at the end of last year called The Return of Magic, where it just like does feel like this whole, call it religion or spirituality or like the telepathy tapes. If you listen to that, like
I
uh,
did. Those
it,
are crazy.
those are crazy, right? And
Did
like,
you? So I like wanted to look into them just to like verify how accurate they were because it sounds extraordinary.
it is extraordinary. And I think like they would say that they still, they have a bunch of like actual kind of like lab grade tests left to do. I haven't found any of the counter arguments particularly compelling. There's like a bunch, there's a few, McGill did one. I think The Atlantic put one out that are both kind of like, here's the bad history of spelling, which is, when they point to the different things on the board.
Mhm.
Therefore, this is wrong. Therefore, everything else that they say about God later is like even crazier. And like the arguments actually like they seem smart because they're skeptical, but they don't hold
Mm,
up particularly well.
I hate that. I hate the seeming smart because you're skeptical. Like to me, that's not smart at all. It's like very easy to be skeptical and poke holes in things.
Totally. And like you should read the McGill one. It's like I forget the name of the office, but it's some like ridiculous sounding office, like Office of Truth and Science, or like
Oh
something ridiculous like that. Um, and it really just comes across as like overly snarky and disbelieving to the point like that it made me almost want to believe them more. Now, like I would love to see them,
no.
recreate them, and like there's something. Hopefully, you should be able to test. Like the Hill seems fairly easy to test, where you're like, hey, what did you guys say to each other in different places where you can't talk? Like, did you guys actually talk on the Hill? Do you both say the same thing? And like, should be fairly easy to test. But for me, like the reason I wrote the piece and why that the telepathy tapes resonated so much is because it just like it at least rhymes. So like if they're like doing the spelling trick, then their parents are like incredibly well read in like the history of religion and the perennial philosophy and like all of that, because they say the same thing that like
Wait, what was the spelling trick?
there's this like whole history of assisted communication with nonverbal people where like they need to be touched often to be able to point to the different letters on the board, or like even if their parents touch the head and not the arm, people think that like what's actually going on, and there were scandals around this in the past, and in some cases it's certainly true. People think that what was actually going on is that the parents are giving them hints as to what they were
Mm,
thinking, and so like if they're moving closer to the B and the B is the right letter, then like even subconsciously they just like apply more pressure and they learn to like communicate that way.
yeah.
And so people kind of dismiss anything having to do with assisted communication or spelling
Uh,
because of that. To me though, there's just like it lines up with like pretty much like what the kids say in kind of later episodes. It's like, oh, there's like one universal consciousness, and like there's this library of knowledge that you can tap into. It like lines up with a lot of like the Rupert Sheldrake morphic resonance stuff. Like Aldous Huxley, the Brave New World guy, wrote a book called The
mm,
Perennial Philosophy, where he talks about the perennial philosophy, like that all the religions kind of have these like similar core
mm.
beliefs. And besides him, it's just like a known thing. And the kids end up saying like the exact same stuff. And so it's like
Oh,
either, it's like it's this very weird coincidence, or like these very like well-read parents if it's not, they're not actually accessing this stuff. So I'm excited to see what they do kind of in the future. But all to say, like, I do think there is this other side of things where people are kind of like, all right, we are building all of this cool stuff, and I want to. Like, I think the point of technology to me is to like increase the potential for human experience. Like, more people can live longer and do more things. And if we get rocket ships, we can see more of the universe. If we get supersonic planes, we can see more of Earth. Like, technology is really good.
Yeah.
And there's still like the meaning and the now what question. And so like that, everything that you're saying resonates, that I think we have to like, we're going to be figuring out a lot more of that.
I mean, the meaning and now what question is kind of like, it's like going back to the thing where it's like, you are what you become. It's like, you can't really like you become the thing that you do. You become the thing that you think about all the time.
Why do you think, I mean, like it was very interesting kind of seeing this get shared a bunch, which is how I found it originally. I was actually on a flight to Dallas for a wedding, and I got off and I checked my phone and I saw like 5 people had shared your essay, including like Jackson Dahl, Nabil Qureshi, and then Graham Duncan, who's this like very serious investor who I like highly respect. And then I click on the link, and like the first thing, it's like, I'm not allowed to orgasm until I like write something. And I'm like, wow, this like must be a very special essay if like all these people are sharing this thing that starts that way. What do you think resonated so deeply with people?
I think one of the reasons people don't talk about things like Alzheimer's or dementia is because, like, number one, it like happens to everyone. Like, and it's tragic. It's incredibly tragic. And it's like, it's so hard to take care of someone who has that. And it's just very hard. And it's kind of like, whenever people talk about it, it's like it has to be very grave and serious, which it should be sometimes. But I think that almost stops us from being able to really talk about it in kind of a nuanced, like kind of free way. So I feel like there is a lot of garbage in the essay, which I love, but I think it kind of like frees the subject matter from being overly serious and overly solemn, because it's like nobody wants to think about this thing if it's really sad. Like, so I think like making it not seem as like serious is important.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the gifs a little bit too. I just think it's like all part of it. Like, how did those come about? Like, some of them are really, my favorite was the notes with the Skittles in the background. Like, how are you even making those? Like, walk me behind the process of like conceiving one of these gifs and then actually making it.
So the Skittles note gif is that was actually just like, so I keep a journal of everything that I'm kind of thinking about throughout the day. So it will be just these like little minuets of like little things that are disconnected. And the notes screen recording was literally just the like first idea that led to this essay. So I wanted to like, I want to try to bring people into like the draft process, because it's like, it's kind of like, it's almost easy to write a final composed thing now. Like, it's easy to make a clear finished product that like sounds good, looks good, reads good. But I feel like the more that becomes, the more easy that becomes to make, the more it surrounds us, and the more those little human details actually become more resonant. So like, I wanted to try to kind of create a slice of life of like, well, this is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm looking up when I'm writing this.
You have that. You have after, I think it was right after the, the shells of the Skittles that we talked about, just like the bright flashing red. Like, how much you think about how aesthetically like those things look? Like, was that supposed to jar you at that certain point, or was it just like you were talking about the color red and so red?
It was. I wanted to almost create like a dementia experience where it's like you're being attacked by this thing. Because I mean, for a lot of people who have that, it's kind of like the outside world is scary. Like, when you're in that one-track mind and you're not thinking about anything else, like, it's scary to encounter things. Like, and a lot of people with dementia, they default to this like really intense grief or paranoia or just like these negative thought loops that are like exaggerated by schizophrenia or something like that. So so I wanted to create an authentic dementia experience.
So dementia is one of the things that stands out. Skittle Factory is one of the things that stands out. And then the third one, obviously, is monkey titties. Tell me the monkey titties story. And like, not just the monkey titties story, but like how you're like, all right, I have this dementia idea. Here's Skittles. And then like, also I'm going to bring in like this monkey titties experience that I had this one time.
Well, again, it's like the essay was really just kind of what's going on in my mind right now, which is why I wasn't sure if anyone was going to read it or like it at all, because I was just kind of like, well, this is what I'm thinking about right now. So we may as well put it in. Like, this is what I'm looking up on my phone, so we may as well put it in. Like, people might like it, they might not, but it feels like honest and true. And I feel like the more, like, the best writing, good writing comes to life when I think, like, you just describe the truth as simply and as clearly as possible. And I think, like, the truth is always beautiful. The truth is always, like, the most alive thing that you can put in, like, an artistic work. Okay, the monkey titties guy. Okay, so I went to the Grand Canyon, and it was a car tour, and he was my tour guide. So at the beginning of our conversation, he was like, oh, why don't we tell everyone a little bit about ourselves so we can, like, introduce ourselves. So I was like, hi, my name's Parakeet. I have 5 pet whales, which I do, by the way. And he was like, oh, whoa, pet whales, what on earth? So I explained that I have this pod of whales that I've been observing for, like, a very long time. I want to say like 6 years at this point. But it's the same pod of whales. And I usually spend, like, kind of my whole summer hanging out with the whales. Like, I know them by name, I can recognize them. And he was like, oh, that's cool, I have pet monkeys. And I was like, oh, that's cool, tell me about your pet monkeys. So he was like, yeah, it's this monkey sanctuary in Ecuador, and it's kind of crazy because I have this one monkey that it went viral. Like, this monkey's taking over the internet, and I don't know what to do about it. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And he was like, yeah, like, this one monkey, so I had to make a totally new account for this monkey, and it has one of the most watched reels on Instagram of all time. So of course I was like, well, I want to see what's the monkey. So then I looked it up and was like, dude, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, I feel like if you Google this, it will probably bring you to that monkey. And I don't want to dox the guy by giving you the account, but it's this account that's just dedicated to this monkey with giant tits. And it's very uncomfortable, and it's very weird, and it's insanely viral. Like he wasn't lying. This monkey is all over the internet. And, like, when I told my friends about this after and showed them, they were like, oh, I've seen this monkey before. Oh my God, that's him. So like, after that, it was kind of like, it's just like the weirdest side hustle you've ever heard in your life. Like, he was, like, talking about trying to monetize this viral monkey that he has, but, like, what does that even mean? How do you do that? And also, he was a normal guy. He didn't seem like a creep. He seemed like someone who almost, like, Forrest Gump style just stumbled into this, like, kind of viral success and wanted to do something with it, but, like, what do you do with it?
Dude, I mean, like, as you're telling the story, here's a random guy in the middle, you know, like, Grand Canyon is, like, obviously a big thing, but in the middle of nowhere, who, like, imagines that he's probably going to be living out the rest of his life kind of doing this one particular thing. And then all of a sudden this, like, falls into his lap. I remember, like, when I was early on Twitter before I had, like, any followers, I took a picture of, like, some rainbow or something. I forget even, like, the context of it now, but on the beach, it was, like, a weird rainbow. And, like, the local news was reaching out and being like, can we use this on our, you know, and I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. I was telling my whole, like, my family about it. I was, like, telling my friends about it. And it was like, I look back, it was like 100 likes and, like, you know, CBS Atlantic City or something reaching out. It, like, was not a big deal. And I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. So if I had the most popular reel of all time and I was in the middle of, you know, the Grand Canyon, like, I can see why that would hijack you and why it would take you over and be like, all right, well, this is my, like, one, you know, lucky break.
Yeah, monkey titties is, like, what I'm doing. But it's also, like, what do you do with it? Like, it's like you get this gift that's, like, just like a modern day gold rush. And it's like, I don't know, what do you do with it? It's very strange. It's, like, very strange, the idea of, like, regular people getting their 15 minutes of fame. Because it's like I feel like now, like, fame and notoriety is, like, it's not something, like, everyone is cut out for. It's almost like you have to be, like, a little bit mentally sick to be able to even handle it.
I agree with that. Like, I'm like, this tiny bit of famous in a little corner of the internet. And like sometimes like if people get like a little bit mad at me, I'm like, this sucks. Like what is going on here? I don't like this at all. So yeah, it is definitely like, it's a bit destabilizing for sure. And I think it's also weirder in this guy's case where like sometimes it's your 15 minutes of fame and that's one thing. And like, then you do it as you, but if it's your monkey titties or like, you know, anything that is like not you, then you almost feel like you're almost like this thing is now like bigger than you. And you live in service of this like random thing that you just like happen to have seen. And it's like almost weirder when you're famous, like when the other thing that you're responsible for is famous.
Yeah, it's never happened to me before, but I can imagine. I mean, he was pretty stressed about it. And honestly, like, I don't know if anyone listening to this knows how you can monetize monkey with big tits, let me know, because I do want to help him. But I don't know if I can help him.
I'll buy a hat or something or a mug if he's selling after this. But totally switching gears, because one of the things that I noticed, you know, I have done a few of these conversations now, and I talk to people who like, you know, either write weekly or actually a bunch have been off for 2 years for whatever reason and are now coming back to writing again. And then I look at your Substack, Parakeet, and it's like nothing for 2 days. I'm going to look up the schedule here because I have it. It's like super chaotic. So the same day that you posted Monkey Titty, you also posted Twix, which is another essay, which I want to talk about, which is awesome. And you published something the day before that. And then there was nothing for 8 days except for March 18th when you published 3 separate pieces. Like what is happening there?
Okay, so I have this productivity hack that is, it's unorthodox, I guess. So earlier in the conversation, we were talking about how you took this like sabbatical where you were just going to write and like not have a schedule. You were just going to write whenever. And like, surprise, what happens is that freedom becomes like a jail and you don't actually write. And it's like, oh, I actually needed those constraints very badly. Otherwise, it's like really hard to like push yourself to get to like that last 10% to finish something. So, oh no, maybe I shouldn't talk about this. This is why I'm anonymous.
Well, you're going to be a parakeet face on the screen, so you can talk about it without fear.
Okay, so I have this new productivity trick, and I'm so upset to say that it works so well. It's kind of life-changing. So my new trick is that I'm not allowed to have an orgasm unless I publish something. So and I've been sticking to it. So like if there's a period where I'm not writing anything, you should just know that I'm dying and that I'm trying. And it's like this, it's like on one hand, I really hate bad writing. It bothers me. Like when I read my own work and I don't personally like it, it's like I can't post it. But it's also like, it drives me crazy, but it works very, very well.
Well, I mean, this isn't a secret. You like now thousands and thousands and thousands of people have seen this right up at the top of your essay. I just wasn't sure if that was real or not, but it makes sense, right? Like, because I do think to your point about like being embarrassed, like sometimes I think that was actually part of my problem was that I'd be like, well, this isn't perfect. Like, and I don't have to send anything, so I'm not going to send. And then like, sometimes the things that aren't perfect, either you force yourself with a deadline to make them good enough to send, or like the raw thing actually ends up being really, really good.
It's good. Yeah. And it's like, you never know. I've been trying to not judge my thoughts because I've noticed like on Twitter, it's like the things that people really like are always just these kind of random throwaway ideas that I would have probably deleted. And it's kind of like, I think that we've internalized a lot of like self-censorship. And I think it's a result of kind of the political climate of the past couple of years. And I think that it's hard to get over that. It's actually like very hard to kind of just speak honestly now, because it's like, I don't know, sometimes people are crazy. Like they'll take something you say and they'll try to get you fired. And like that is a very, very psychotic thing to have in society and be treated as normal. Like that's not normal. It's like incredibly antisocial and weird. So it's like I think that fear is just like baked into everyone. So it's like, to me, the only way to get around that is to go fully in the opposite direction and just say everything that you think of.
I mean, I can go a couple of different ways in this one. First, just very quickly, I want to know what happened on March 18th, given your productivity hack, how you ended up publishing 3 pieces on March 18th. Take me to that day.
Oh no. Oh no. Well, if I'm ever posting a lot, it just means that I've been torturing myself. So at first it started with okay, I'll be honest. I'm a very sexual person. It's like it's just a part of who I am. I've always been that way. I don't see myself changing. It's just the thing I've learned to accept in myself. So at first it was, when I publish something, I'm just free for the rest of the day. I can do whatever I want the rest of the day. And then I decided, no, it's 1 per essay. And that's really what's been killing me.
That's a great hack. It works.
Yeah.
It's like it's a very funny schedule, and it has to be different, right? And like I think like even down to your publishing schedule, I think like that difference is like also has a quality of its own, and it like adds to the whole vibe of the Parakeet Substack. So yeah,
I was really hoping that like no one would like any of the things that were the result of the new method. I was really, really hoping that, so that I wouldn't have to keep doing it. But it's like, shoot, this is the most read thing I've ever written. So I can't give it up now. Like, it's working.
Yeah, it seems like it's working. Unfortunately, it's working too well. I'm going to ask you the question that I was going to ask now a little bit, like maybe in a couple of questions, and we're getting close to winding down here. But I want to talk about Twix, which is the other post that you've published on the same day as Skittle Factory, Dementia, Monkey Titty Monetization. My whole point of this podcast is focus on one essay, so I don't want to, but it felt very like David Foster Wallace-y, and maybe my reference set is just like too small, but like just picturing this man who is obsessed not just with like candy, but with Twix, and like takes that so seriously.
You know, he's somewhere. He's somewhere. So I found out the former CEO of Mars, his name was Paul, spelled P-O-U-L. But I couldn't find the person who's in charge of Twix specifically. And I tried to find them because I wanted to just like learn details about their life. Because like I've been eating a lot of Twix lately, and Twix really is better. It's kind of better than all other candies. Like, I imagine that person who's made Twix their life tries other candies and is like, they're nothing compared to Twix.
It is funny. I didn't even notice till I said it out loud now that you did Skittles and Twix on the same day, and I don't see a lot of other candy. Something's going on. So you're Twix over Skittles?
Oh, for sure. Twix are very. When's the last time you had a Twix?
Not probably Halloween, actually, when my kids got Twix bars, and I ate
Oh, you
them.
have kids?
I have 2 kids.
Oh, how old are they?
4 and 2.5.
Oh,
Boy and girl.
Cute. Do you like being a parent?
I do. It's the best. It's like, obviously exhausting and blah, blah, blah. But they're like little, incredible little humans. Like, they've become people more quickly than I think I would have expected ahead of time. And so like, they're just awesome. They have like very different personalities. I think my son is more me. My daughter is more my wife and all that. But like, my 4-year-old son like has his own life now and like his own thoughts and his own like, it's just like, it's really, really cool. It does, like, I think every cliche thing that people say about parenting like ends up actually being true. Except for maybe the one where people say it makes them more productive. Like, I actually don't think that's true. I think like that's a little bit cope, but everything else I think is like actually kind of true.
Wait, who says it makes them more productive?
Well, there's like a meme around parenting about being a parent where you're just like, my priorities are reset. And so now I just like, I'm focused because I know that I have to like get home to my children. And so I just like do more work. And I think that might be true if you have like a job and you have like a list of things to get through. Maybe you like get them through and you do less like water cooler stuff. I think if my job is like writing and investing in companies and like, just like, it's all over the place, I think it's harder to like,
you're never clocking out.
You're never clocking out. And so like every hour, I mean, this with writing, you write 3 times a day, like every hour that you could be writing, like you could fill every hour with writing if you wanted to.
You could, yeah. Yeah, I've been thinking about that lately. Like, what would be the 80-hour work week version of writing poetry? Like, like what would be the investment banker schedule of writing poetry? Like you wake up at 4 a.m. and then it's just 16 hours of poetry nonstop.
I think people, I forget what I was reading. I'm not going to get the reference. And so I'm going to blow this one because it would have been really good. But it was talking about somebody who just like did that. They just like cranked writing like hours and hours and hours a day, like a machine. Whereas like a lot of people are like, I do my 3 hours. If I get my 3 hours in the morning, then I'm good and I'm not productive anyway after that. But there are just some high energy machines who can just keep going.
Man, so like another really disappointing thing about the method that I found is that like in all of my free time, like it'll just be 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. I'm working on my writing. And it's like, normally I would tell myself, oh, I have to be in the zone, or I have to like, I have to like be in a quiet place to think about it. I can't do it when I'm in transit, or I can't do it like between these two contexts that are the opposite of it. So it's helped a lot with that.
Totally. Now, when I read your Substack from now on and I start seeing like 3-word pieces, I'm going to be like, Parakeet.
Oh, wow.
That's cheating. Do you have like a word limit? Do you have a word minimum on your rule?
I don't. But the only rule is that I have to like it. So like
Okay.
I have a lot of essays that are almost done. I have a lot of like very good essays that are about to come out, but it's like, oh man, the last push. Cause it's like you read through it and you just see that one paragraph and it doesn't feel effortless. It doesn't flow. And it's like, it bothers me. Like when I was writing Skittle Factory, I started crying one night because I was like, I thought I was going to be done. I thought I was going to be done by now. And then it's like, I'm changing everything and I'm adding a new part and it's very hard, but it's necessary. I really like Skittle Factory. I like Twix a little bit less, but I do have fun reading my own writing, to be honest.
It's fun. Twix, I was reading it, I was like, oh my God, like I wish that I had this idea about this guy. if everybody listening, just go to, is it parakeet.substack.com? Is it that simple?
I think so, yeah.
Go to parakeet.substack.com. We'll also link to it in the show notes and read Twix, because it does feel like, you know, we have a David Foster Wallace shaped hole, and I can picture him like writing this character. It's very DFW. I like that. Why do you write, and why do you write anonymously?
Oh, well, I mean, I write because I just love ideas. Like ideas are my favorite things to play with. I'm kind of like always. I'm like a very curious person. I always have like a beat that I'm on. So a lot of my writing is mostly to like spare my friends from being annoyed by being subjected to my rants.
Are all of the texts that you like, you know, tweet about or put in your essay, are those all like real actual conversations with your friends?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Amazing.
Yeah. I'm a big believer in like, I want to try to keep it as real as possible, because it's like the same way you don't know which ideas or parts of your writing will resonate. Like you don't know what details actually bring something together and create a final picture that takes a piece from being like good, but you kind of forget about, to being something that kind of comes alive for them. And it's like, it all makes sense and they can like carry it with them.
We'll have just a final kind of 3 easy questions for you. 1, if people love reading Skittle Factory, Dementia, Monkey Titty, Monetization, what's one other essay of yours that they should read?
Oof. Well, I'll be honest. My Substack is very good. It's very good. Like I have a lot of range. There are a lot of different flavors of parakeet you can encounter, and they're all very fun. I think I wrote down 2. So another one that's very good is Your Eyes Are Leaking Corporate Cum. That one was very good.
That's my mom's favorite piece, actually.
What?
That was my mom's favorite piece of yours.
Oh, really? Your mom read it?
No, I'm kidding.
I was like, oh no.
My 2-year-old loved that piece.
I was gonna say your mom sounds so cool.
She'll probably listen to this, and then mom go read it. I bet it's very good.
My mom has no idea about any of this. I just kind of tell her, like, sometimes I'll call her and I'll have an idea and I'll like want her perspective on something. But it's like, yeah, she can't know about some of the titles I write. She would be very disappointed.
That's totally fair. I understand that.
So that one, and then also the algorithmic grooming of your inner child is a very good one.
I've not read that one yet. All right. That'll be next on my list.
Yeah, that one's solid. But I've got to be honest, it's all very good. I actually think Twix is like my least strong one of all of them. That's my personal least favorite.
Okay. Well, then I have to read the whole back catalog because I like Twix. I'm going to be a Twix supporter here. What about somebody else? If there's one essay on the internet that more people should be reading, what essay is that?
Oh, that's a good question. I want to say Politics in the English Language by George
Ooh,
Orwell.
yes.
Just because he nails it. Like, and also it's like our language communicates so many like subtle things, and it shapes the way you look at the world and the way you think, and like lazy metaphors just create lazy thoughts, and it's so true, and it's simple but it's really powerful. And I so like that's an essay that I always come back to, that I quote all the time. But I also, just in general, I think that people should read Atlas Shrugged again. I've been reading Atlas Shrugged, and it's so good. And I feel like most people haven't read it since high school. And like, I don't think people in high school should be reading Atlas Shrugged. I feel like it's completely lost. If anything, I think Atlas Shrugged turns into like kind of this like ideological submission exercise where it's like you're not really supposed to read the book and engage with it. You're supposed to read the book and absorb like your teacher's opinions about the book, and then carry that through the rest of your life and never think about it twice.
Are you her villains are realistic and her heroes aren't person?
Absolutely not. No, not at all. Do you think that?
I haven't read it since high school or since college, maybe. I forget which one, but I haven't read it for long enough to have an informed opinion.
Oh man, it's so good. It's like the book could be written now and it would still be totally relevant. It's like she just gets all of those little nuances about how like power kind of becomes corrosive, and like the politics of power, and also like the ideology around like people who make things, people who don't make things, why they make things, why that's important. No, I actually feel like her character Dagny in Atlas Shrugged is, I think it's the most feminist depiction of a female character I have ever read.
Whoa. Okay. I'm gonna
Without
reread
a doubt.
Yeah, that I mean, I remember liking it back in high school. Politics in the English Language is a great recommendation, so I trust you here. And it's funny, actually, Politics in the English Language. Now, like thinking back on your writing, like I don't know if like that's what he had in mind when he wrote the piece, but like every sentence is like very precise, and like there's not that kind of like BS filler stuff in it. So it's like a very like fun world mirror, funhouse mirror version
like
of it.
The enemy. That's the enemy. And I feel like so much AI writing is like.
Oh.
Like you'll find that like sometimes I use ChatGPT or like Claude or something like that to like maybe like tease out an idea or something.
Oh, I think I found a sentence in your piece that might have even been AI written. I'm like getting very good at detecting this now. And this core loop doesn't just influence your thinking, it's the fundamental engine driving your entire reality. It doesn't just X M dash something way bigger is like clear GPT talk.
True. That is a classic ChatGPT. I actually don't think that one was ChatGPT. I actually think that was me.
Okay. It's such a bummer because like there's a reason that those sentences are like so heavily represented, is because people do write like that. But now that it writes like that so much, every time I see that, I'm like, ChatGPT.
ChatGPT, yeah. Or anytime someone talks about a tapestry, like anytime someone refers to something as a grand tapestry, it's like immediately I stop listening to what they're saying.
I hadn't caught that one, and now I'm going to be on the lookout for that too.
Yeah, ChatGPT loves a grand tapestry. It's like its favorite. And I've even asked it why it likes that metaphor so much, and it was like, it just hits. I don't know.
Fair enough. I mean, you gotta write what hits, and maybe it's just trying to get something out. But I guess last question. This is going to be impossible to do since we didn't even do the 2-minute version. But I'm going to ask you if you had kind of like a 1-sentence takeaway from Skittle Factory, Dementia, Monkey, Titty, Monetization that you could just implant in people's brains, what would that 1 sentence be?
Oh man, what would it be? I think it would be that you can change your mind and your circumstances to reflect whatever you kind of want to see out in the world, and that your Skittle Factory can always be rebuilt, and it's in your power to do that. And it really is in your power to do that.
I mean, that is a perfect place to end this conversation. Parakeet, thank you so much for doing this with a random stranger from the internet. This was a ton of fun.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It was great talking to you.